Ustedes saben que los fondos buitres tienen algo que se llama el American Task Force Argentina, es decir, la fuerza de choque, el grupo de tareas que ellos tienen. Emitieron este volante, vayan prestando atención. El volante dice, la primera de sus apreciaciones, en vista de los constantes ataques por medios intelectuales y periodistas específicos, no necesariamente opositores, sino críticos, que han recibido el gobierno, ¿usted cree que existe la libertad de expresión en Argentina? Y firman American Task Force de la Argentina. ¿Escucharon bien qué es lo que les acabo de leer? Ahora presten atención a la pregunta de este joven venezolano. Pregunta en nombre de los fondos buitres de los Estados Unidos. Son capaces de cualquier cosa.
En vista de los constantes ataques que medios, intelectuales y periodistas específicos, no necesariamente opositores, sino críticos, han recibido durante su gobierno, ¿usted cree que existe la pluralidad de ideas y la libertad de expresión en Argentina?
Oye, te costó...
En medio de la incalificable actitud de diarios y otro tipo de medios de comunicación en la Argentina, será muy valioso en 30 segundos, después de Julieta y nuestros amigos en el Twitter, presentarles un testimonio que, a la luz de todo lo que se dice en la Argentina a favor de los fondos buitres que hay que pagar, y todos los que están accionando desde las consultoras, economistas, hombres de la política, y ni hablar los medios de comunicación para que pague, verán ustedes de qué manera alguien inesperado por completo sale en defensa. Le va a dar mucha vergüenza a alguna gente. Pero antes, los tuits, por favor, Julieta.
Gracias, Víctor Hugo. En @BDL Víctor Hugo, vamos con el primero. Pertenece a Pablo Ferreira. Dice, el fallo Griesa transgrede nuestra soberanía a tal punto que repercute sobre YPF buscando afectar su salida al mercado externo. Vanessa Siley tuiteó, los fondos buitres no son otra cosa que usureros atacando el patrimonio común de las naciones y así su soberanía. Beto Pianelli, del grupo Clarín no esperábamos menos. Lo triste es que representantes de la oposición defiendan a los fondos buitres. Todos estos tweets en vivo, por supuesto, aquí en @BDL Víctor Hugo.
El señor con el que hablamos hace algunas horas vía Skype, recurrimos a esa manera para poder conversar directamente con él. Se llama Martin Mayer. Es el presidente del sindicato de los camioneros. Es mucho más que eso porque también tiene actividad internacional en el sindicalismo. Pero es el hombre fuerte de los camioneros en Inglaterra. Con él hablamos y vale la pena prestar atención a todo lo que nos dice.
We've discovered that the largest shareholder in National Express is the very same company, Elliott, which is now trying to hold this ship in Argentina. So there's a very close connection. For us, Elliott is a large shareholder in a company which is taking an anti-union stance. So we've also heard from the Teamsters that Elliott has done similar things in companies where it's tried to make maximum profit and reduce the terms and conditions for workers and indeed avoid trade union recognition. So for us this is a very significant connection, that Elliott is not just a vulture fund attacking Argentina, it's also a major shareholder promoting anti-trade union business policies in the companies that it invests in. And as part of the IGF, also as brothers in the trade union movement, they really should be aware of the way in which companies like Elliott and other hedge funds are working, and we should be calling on our governments to implement legislation to restrict the way they operate, so that, for instance, in the case of Argentina, the ship, the Libertad, should be released. The debt agreement that was made internationally some years ago should be honoured by all the creditors, and that should be enforced by law. And on behalf of the ITF and Unite, we give a solidarity greetings to all the workers and sisters and brothers in the team, trade union friends and civil society, and say to you that we are being part in this fight, and we will do what we can to help you restore your dignity and release yourselves from the grip of hedge funds like Elliott.
Martin Mayer se llama. Un trabajador que conoce a los fondos buitres sabe perfectamente de qué lado de la vida hay que estar. Y digo esto del lado de la vida porque me causa gracia saber que más adelante tendremos un testimonio en el que una periodista de los Estados Unidos habla del lado Romney de la vida en estos días, sin pedir derechos de autor. Vamos a ver a continuación cómo Martin Mayer se refiere a fondos que van contra todo, contra países del África y también contra los Estados Unidos. Vamos a empezar por Liberia. Lo que van a ver dura exactamente 3 minutos. En esos 3 minutos ustedes verán cómo operan, cómo hacen. No se puede creer lo que ustedes van a poder apreciar sobre la catadura de estos fondos buitres tan defendidos. Es demencial en la Argentina. Y verán lo que la presidenta de Liberia, emocionándonos, le pide a esos fondos buitres y desde qué lugar se lo reclama. Vayamos a conocer a los fondos buitres, cómo ellos consiguen las deudas que después quieren cobrar y dónde la quieren cobrar y de qué manera.
Welcome to Liberia in West Africa, where 80% of the people survive on less than $1 a day. Now, these people are being told that they have to pay $28 million to a bunch of financial speculators known as vulture funds. This was not supposed to happen. So how did these American speculators get their hands on Liberia's debts? We've come to the offices of Greylock Capital, big players in the industry. Greylock CEO Hans Humes tells us how he ended up with some of Liberia's debts.
I ended up buying a lot of the loans that we had in Liberia. When I called one of the banks that was going through a merger 13, 14 years ago, and I said, hey, by the way, you're a lender to this African country. And the guy said, no, I'm not. A couple of days later, he said, you know what, you're right. We found this box in this warehouse that had files for all these loans. Do you want to buy all of them?
The reason Hans and other speculators were able to buy up Liberia's debt dirt cheap was war. In the 80s and 90s, Liberian warlords were chopping the country into bloody pieces, killing 1 in 10 Liberians. Humes and others were willing to wait until peace could be restored, but for some vultures, Liberia's misery was an opportunity.
4,500 miles away from the mayhem, they file a lawsuit in this courthouse in New York City. Now, Liberia didn't really have a government. It was run by a bunch of warlords under UN sanctions. Not surprisingly, Liberia doesn't show up in the courthouse and they lose automatically.
Who is behind this lawsuit? The key figure is Eric Herman, the owner of vulture fund FH International. In 2007, all of Liberia's creditors, including Eric Herman, agreed to accept just 3 cents on the dollar for all that nation's debts. Then it emerged that Eric Herman had quietly transferred his part of the debt to a secretive fund called HAMSA. Under the 3-cent deal, Herman would have received $1 million. But now, HAMSA sued in London for more. And that's how Liberia ended up getting hit with this $28 million judgment. Today, with the end of war, things are looking up for Liberia. There's a surge in literacy. Hopes are rising. But it's all threatened by lawsuits by vultures. The president has a message for them.
Look, here's a country having 2 decades of turmoil, of death and destruction. Now trying to find its way back, trying to give its young people a future. You should not be the one to become an obstacle towards the achievement of this. Have a conscience and give this country a break.
Ingenua presidenta de Liberia. Porque no solo se lo hacen a Liberia, se lo hacen también a empresas en los Estados Unidos. Esta gente que aquí es tan particularmente defendida estos días, provoca rechazo, podría decirse repugnancia, también en los Estados Unidos, aunque no se exprese con el gesto. Es indudable que el presidente Obama sabe muy bien quiénes son y cómo son los fondos buitres cuando van contra empresas norteamericanas como podría ser la Chrysler, porque entre otros intereses, cerremos las fábricas en Estados Unidos y pongámoslas en China. Es una de las cosas que el mundo económico de los Estados Unidos puede pensar. Vean ustedes a Obama hablando de los fondos buitres.
And while many stakeholders made sacrifices and worked constructively, I have to tell you some did not. In particular, a group of investment firms and hedge funds decided to hold out for the prospect of an unjustified taxpayer-funded bailout. They were hoping that everybody else would make sacrifices and they would have to make none. Some demanded twice the return that other lenders were getting. I don't stand with them. I stand with Chrysler's employees and their families and communities. I stand with Chrysler's management, its dealers, and its suppliers. I stand with the millions of Americans who own and want to buy Chrysler cars. I don't stand with those who held out when everybody else is making sacrifices.
Obama, en estos días, en los mismos días en los que veíamos a Griesa como si fuese un actor de Hollywood, en realidad, que está de moda, todo el día. El jueves debe haber salido decenas, posiblemente cientos de veces en algunos canales, títulos en los diarios. Hay que honrar las deudas. Un país decente le paga a estos indecentes lo que ya está acordado que le paga al mundo. Es absolutamente incalificable lo que sucede. Por eso vale tanto este testimonio de Obama. Pero ¿por qué Obama dice lo que dice? Vean esta fábrica de golosinas que nació hace 70, 80 años, que dejó 80.000 empleados en la calle. ¿Quién era el dueño de la compañía? Un fondo buitre. ¿Y qué hacen? Extraordinariamente los medios de comunicación salen en defensa de los fondos buitres. Algunos de los medios de comunicación, véanlo.
Cream filling inside, sponge cake on the outside, the Twinkie, an American passion. On the verge now of extinction.
It's the end of the line for Twinkies. No! Snack maker Hostess announcing moments ago it's going out of business.
CEO of Hostess is threatening to sell off everything the company has if union workers don't end their frequent strike.
We're hoping to be heard because what they're going to probably do is liquidate, and then we will probably no further have a job.
The corruption of American capitalism by Reaganomic deregulation.
This is really the case of a lot of debt from private equity and hedge funds loading it on there, and they also have a problem of not really working well with their unions.
The Bakers Union, I think, the leadership of that union made a decision that they're willing to sacrifice these jobs because they don't really want to have these kind of concessions from other companies.
And we're talking about the loss of 18,500 jobs if the company goes out of business. I have a statement from the Bakers Union, quote, despite Greg Rayburn's insulting and disingenuous statements of the last several months, the truth is that Hostess workers in the union have absolutely no responsibility for the failure of this company. That responsibility rests squarely on the shoulders of the company's decision maker. Is this really the end of the road for Hostess, or can I be blunt here? Is this some kind of negotiating tactic to try to get the